While most Americans are celebrating gas prices dropping to their lowest level since 2021 at just $2.80 per gallon, California drivers are still paying over $4.20. That's almost double the national average. So what's really going on? Why is California paying so much more than the rest of the country? And what are the factors behind these consistently high prices? Let's break down the real story behind California's gas price situation. The current situation. Let's start with where we are right now. According to the national average for regular gasoline hit $2.80 per gallon in early January, the lowest it's been since March 2021. That's great news for most Americans who are finally getting some relief at the pump. But if you're in California, you're living in a completely different reality. California drivers are paying an average of $4.22 per gallon. That's $1.42 more than the national average. Only Hawaii has higher gas prices in the entire country. There is some good news. California prices have dropped about 15 cents compared to last year when drivers were paying $4.38 per gallon. But that still doesn't explain why there's such a massive gap between California and everywhere else. The national prices are falling because of simple economics. There's a large supply of oil available, and fewer people are filling up their tanks. Crude oil prices have settled just below $56 a barrel. Gasoline demand has dropped nationwide, and domestic gasoline supply increased from 234 million barrels to 242 million barrels. Plus, OPEC Plus isn't planning to boost production because global demand is lower. But California isn't benefiting from these trends the same way other states are. And to understand why, we need to dig into what makes California so unique and expensive. The tax factor. So, what's driving these sky-high prices? Let's break it down, factor by factor. First up, taxes. California drivers pay the highest taxes at the pump in the entire United States. California motorists are paying 90 cents per gallon just in taxes and fees. Let me repeat that. 90 cents of every gallon goes straight to taxes. Here's how that breaks down. 18 cents goes to federal taxes, which is the same for everyone across the country. But then California adds 60 cents in state excise tax, the highest in the nation. The national average for state excise tax is only 28 cents. On top of that, there's a 10-cent state sales tax and a 2-cent underground storage tank fee. Compare that to states like Washington, which charges 55 cents per gallon in state taxes, or Oregon at 40 cents. California is in a league of its own when it comes to fuel taxation, but taxes are just the beginning of the story. Environmental costs and special fuel beyond taxes. California has some of the strictest environmental requirements in the country. The California Energy Commission estimates that environmental compliance costs add as much as 54 cents per gallon to the price you pay. This includes costs from California's cap-and-trade program and low-carbon fuel standard, which reflect the expenses associated with reducing fuel supplier emissions and carbon intensity. These environmental programs are designed to combat climate change, and these costs are reflected in what you pay at the pump. Then there's California's special gasoline blend. The state mandates a unique formula designed to reduce pollution and improve air quality. This fuel burns cleaner, which is great for the environment, but it comes at a cost. The special blend requires more processing steps and expensive blending components, making it significantly more expensive to produce than regular gasoline. Here's where it gets interesting. Refiners outside California only make this special blend specifically to supply California's market. No other state uses this exact formula. This means California can't just import regular gasoline from anywhere. It needs to rely heavily on refineries that can produce this specific blend. And that brings us to the next major factor, California's isolated petroleum market. The supply chain problem. California is geographically isolated from other major U.S. refining centers. There are no pipelines that supply California from across the Rocky Mountains. and only a limited number of pipelines deliver fuel to the West Coast from the Gulf Coast. This means that most of the gasoline consumed in California, roughly 90% in Oregon, which relies on California refineries, is refined within the state or the immediate Pacific Northwest region. Washington has 5 refineries mostly near Tacoma and Seattle, but Oregon has 0 refineries of its own. When refineries need to shut down for planned maintenance or experience unexpected outages, there's very little backup capacity. The West Coast has historically maintained lower inventory levels compared to the US average, meaning there's essentially no margin for error. California does import some gasoline from countries like India and South Korea, but high shipping costs usually limit these imports to emergency situations or the busy summer driving season. This isolated supply chain makes California's gas prices extremely volatile and subject to sudden spikes. A single pipeline outage or refinery problem can send prices soaring almost overnight. Recently, a major pipeline outage on the 400-mile Olympic pipeline, combined with refinery maintenance, pushed Pacific Northwest prices even higher. The bottom line: California has limited refineries, high demand, and no easy way to get fuel from other parts of the country when problems arise. Regional price differences. Not all California drivers pay the same price at the pump. There are significant regional differences across the state. If you're in Northern California, you're getting a better deal. Cities like Yuba City have gas averaging $3.74 per gallon, and Redding is at $3.84, still high compared to the national average of $2.80, but noticeably lower than the state average of $4.22. For Pacific Northwest drivers, there's a seasonal factor at play. The switch to winter gasoline blends, which are cheaper and easier to produce, typically brings prices down. Winter blends don't require as many expensive additives as summer blends, and this transition happens every September when environmental regulations allow the change. These regional variations show that even within high-price areas, location and timing can make a significant difference in what you pay at the pump. Understanding the bigger picture. Let's zoom out and look at why all of this matters beyond just the price on the pump. Gas prices represent less than 5% of what an average household spends every month, according to the Department of Energy. But their impact goes beyond just filling up your tank. High gas prices drive up the cost of everything that needs to be transported: food, home goods, clothing. And because gas prices are so visible, posted in huge numbers on every street corner, they often become a talking point when discussing the economy. Whether that's fair or not, it's the reality. California's situation is unique in the country. The combination of factors we've discussed, the 90 cents in taxes, the 54 cents in environmental compliance costs, the special fuel requirements, and the geographic isolation, all add up to create a perfect storm of high prices. Around 130 refineries operate across the United States, but most were built before the year 2000. The West Coast has enough refining capacity to meet demand, but not much more than that. This lack of buffer capacity means any disruption can cause price spikes. The reality is that California operates in a system with limited flexibility. The state has specific requirements that other states don't have, relies on a small number of refineries that can meet those requirements, and doesn't have easy access to alternative fuel sources when things go wrong. The story of California's gas prices is a complex mix of taxes, environmental requirements, supply chain realities, and geographic factors. While the rest of the country enjoys prices not seen since 2021, California continues to pay a significant premium. California drivers pay 90 cents per gallon in taxes, the highest in the nation. They pay about 54 cents per gallon for environmental compliance. They need a special fuel blend that costs more to produce. And they're in a geographically isolated market with limited refineries and no easy backup options. Whether you see these costs as necessary investments in cleaner air and climate action, or as excessive burdens on everyday drivers, the numbers tell a clear story. California's gas prices are high because of a unique combination of factors that don't exist anywhere else in the continental United States. Understanding these factors helps explain why California consistently ranks at the top of the most expensive gas price lists, and why that's unlikely to change without significant shifts in either regulations, infrastructure, or both. What are your thoughts on California's gas prices? Drop your comments below, and if you found this breakdown helpful, hit that like button and subscribe for more in-depth analysis on the issues that affect your wallet. Thanks for watching.